Welcome to Odd Occasions, the channel where we explore the most bizarre, unsettling, and unusual happenings from around the world. Today, we're delving into a chilling topic: 10 real-life death traps that have horrified residents and baffled authorities. From structurally unsound homes to hazardous high-rises, these dangerous places have earned the terrifying title of death traps. And the stories behind them will leave you shocked. So get ready, because these are the places you'd never want to step foot in. Let's jump in. Number 10. Structurally damaged house. In Cambridgeshire, England, what was once a £7,250,000 dream home for Madeline and Alistair Price has turned into a waking nightmare. Just 5 years after construction, the luxurious property began showing alarming signs of instability. Cracks snaked from ceiling to floor, while the outer walls also developed extensive fissures, leading their insurance company to deem the home a death trap. The culprit? The house was built on shifting clay, which expanded and lifted the foundation as it absorbed water, causing the entire structure to become increasingly hazardous. The situation worsened to the point where the Prices couldn't even enter their front door due to uneven floors and cracks, spreading pretty much everywhere. At this point, the only solution was demolition and complete reconstruction. The 5-bedroom home, which boasts luxurious features like a wine fridge, a wood burner, and underfloor heating, could take up to 2 years to rebuild. But despite all the high-end features, the Prices remain unsure whether they'll ever want to return to their nightmare home. They may decide to sell the newly rebuilt house instead, leaving this death trap behind. Number 9. Breathing hazard. In Kings Norton, a district in Birmingham, England, tenants of Loweswater House, a high-rise apartment building, are desperate to leave due to severe living conditions that have turned the building into a modern-day death trap. The building has been plagued by leaks, mold, and structural deterioration, but the most alarming issue for residents has been the breathing difficulties caused by ongoing construction. The construction is part of an effort to retrofit sprinklers and replace balconies after the devastating Grenfell Tower fire in 2017. However, the constant work has left the building in disrepair, with tenants facing hazards like a broken elevator, thick dust from construction, and shattered glass littering the hallways. Some windows have been boarded up for so long that birds have begun nesting in the spaces meant for replacement. One of the most pressing concerns is the lack of fresh air, which has particularly impacted the health of children living in the building. Many parents have expressed their desire to move out, fearing for their kids' well-being. The poor air circulation and dust accumulation have led to physical and mental health issues for many residents. In response to the outcry, the Birmingham City Council issued an apology to residents for the disruption and inconvenience they've endured. But for those living in Loweswater House, it may not be enough to make this hazardous high-rise feel like home again. Stay tuned as we continue uncovering more terrifying locations that have earned the title of death traps for the unfortunate souls living within them. Number 8. House of Horrors. Warren House, located in the Thorpe Edge housing estate in Bradford, England, has become infamous as a House of Horrors, a term coined by Imran Hussain, the Labour Member of Parliament for Bradford East. The building, situated in Idle, has fallen into severe disrepair, leading Hussain to label it a death trap. Years of neglect and inadequate maintenance have left residents in a perilous situation. Hussain has called on the housing minister to take action against social landlords who allow properties to deteriorate so badly. In particular, he demanded that the chief executive of In-Communities, a social housing provider in the Bradford district, address the building's extensive and dangerous deficiencies. The problems at Warren House are numerous and alarming. Residents have endured dampness and mold, malfunctioning elevators, and inadequate water supplies that persisted for 5 years. The building also has leaky roofs and perhaps most dangerously, rusted and missing safety railings along walkways and staircases. These missing railings have caused several serious accidents, including one tragic incident where a woman suffered a brain bleed after falling due to the absent safety measures. With residents at constant risk, Warren House has become a symbol of housing negligence. It remains to be seen whether the calls for accountability will lead to meaningful change for the tenants still trapped in this hazardous environment. Number 7. Cranleigh House. Cranleigh House, a 24-unit apartment complex located on Westwood Road in Southampton, England, was labeled a death trap during the prosecution of fire risk assessor Charles Morgan. The trial, held at Southampton Crown Court, uncovered significant fire hazards that could have spelled disaster for residents. Among the dangers were holes in the walls separating apartments and a lack of proper insulation, both of which could have exacerbated the spread of a fire. Yet, Morgan's fire risk assessment report failed to mention any of these critical issues. Additionally, the court learned that the fire alarm control panel in Cranleigh House was vulnerable to tampering, heightening the risk to tenants. Clentiana Mahmoutaj, prosecutor for the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Service, referred to Cranleigh House as a huge source of potential risk and highlighted its alarming deficiencies. Judge Gary Burrell agreed with the prosecutor's assessment, sentencing Morgan to 3 months in jail for each of his offenses. However, the court suspended the sentence for 18 months. Alongside the sentence, Morgan was fined $2,750 and ordered to pay an additional $19,952 in costs. His employer, UK Fire Consulting Limited, was fined $20,000 and also ordered to pay $19,952 in expenses. As a result, Morgan was terminated from his position and barred from ever working as a fire risk assessor again. The Cranleigh House case exposed the dangers of inadequate fire safety measures and the importance of proper assessments. Its residents, living in what could have been a deadly fire trap, narrowly avoided catastrophe due to the eventual legal action taken. Number 6. Harrowing Home. In Harrow, England, landlord Paul Etienne turned a property on Headstone Drive into a veritable death trap for his 5 tenants. Despite being ordered twice by the courts to address the hazardous conditions in his house, Etienne ignored the mandates. Among the numerous dangers was the unsafe use of extension cords, which were used to connect a single socket to multiple devices, including space heaters, televisions, a music system, and lighting, creating a major fire hazard. Further compounding the unsafe conditions, the tenants had access to limited and inadequate electricity, and some windows were secured with a tent, offering little protection from the elements. These reckless decisions not only put the residents at risk of electrical fires, but also compromised their overall safety and well-being during their stay. Etienne defended his failure to act by blaming the pandemic and a loss of income, claiming these factors prevented him from making the necessary repairs. However, the Willesden Magistrates Court was unconvinced. Etienne was slapped with a $3,660 fine for his blatant disregard of tenant safety. Councillor Anjana Patel, Cabinet Member for Environment and Community Safety, expressed satisfaction with the court's decision, stating that Etienne thought he was above the law and could get away with housing tenants in his death trap property. The fine made it clear that such negligence would not go unpunished. Stay tuned as we continue exploring more locations that have earned the disturbing title of death traps due to the risks they pose to unsuspecting residents. Number 5. Sitakunda Depot. The BM Container Depot in Sitakunda, near Chattogram in Bangladesh, became the site of a horrific disaster when a series of explosions resulted in a massive fire, claiming the lives of at least 49 people and injuring hundreds more. The tragedy underscored the dangers posed by inadequate safety management at facilities that store hazardous chemicals, revealing the depot as a death trap. In response to the disaster, Professor Syeda Sultana Razia of the Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology conducted a comprehensive review of the country's chemical storage management practices. She discovered that the systems in place for managing on-site chemical risks were fragmented and isolated, with no comprehensive, integrated approach to ensure safety. Professor Razia emphasized the urgent need for a proper regulatory agency to enforce safety standards alongside implementing essential measures like a mandatory hazardous labeling system and an integrated and verified chemical inventory. The depot had stored large quantities of dangerous chemicals such as ammonia and chlorine, which significantly increased the potential for catastrophe. She also stressed the need for protocols to ensure the safety of firefighters, who were left vulnerable during the Sitakunda fire. The Sitakunda depot tragedy serves as a stark reminder of the importance of strong safety regulations and management practices when dealing with hazardous materials. The lack of proper oversight and safety measures turned this depot into a deadly hazard, leaving a lasting scar on the community. Number 4. UK hospitals. A recent investigation revealed alarming safety issues in London hospitals related to the aluminum composite material, ACM cladding, the same flammable material responsible for the Grenfell Tower fire in 2017, which tragically claimed the lives of 72 people. As of October 2020, 6 out of 8 hospitals in London had either not removed this dangerous cladding or had no plans to do so. Compounding the issue, the other 2 hospitals had yet to address plastic foam insulation and other construction defects that posed serious fire safety risks. This revelation was made even more disturbing by a fire incident just a month earlier, on September 16, 2020, at Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Glasgow, Scotland. A discarded cigarette ignited debris outside the building, filling the main atrium with smoke and forcing the evacuation of staff and patients. Since 2013, there have been at least 4,120 fires in hospitals and medical facilities across England, resulting in 6 fatalities and 320 injuries. The investigation sparked concern, with some stating, "It is surprising that the death toll has not been worse." These fire risks, left unaddressed, have turned some UK hospitals into potential death traps for both patients and staff. Number 3. China House. The China House restaurant in Preston, Lancashire, England, was labelled a time bomb and a death trap by emergency services and health and safety officials after a near-disastrous event in 2013. The restaurant, situated in an old, dilapidated building, was found to have gas bottles dangerously stored in the cellar, right next to faulty electrical wiring. Experts feared that a single spark could have ignited the gas, triggering an explosion that might have wiped out surrounding homes and businesses, leading to multiple deaths. Such a catastrophe could have even shut down the West Coast Main Line Railway, resulting in millions of pounds in losses. This wasn't the first time China House faced scrutiny. The restaurant had its license revoked in 2009 due to fire safety violations and had been closed multiple times. It briefly reopened, but was forced to shut down again in 2013 after the renewed risks were discovered. In 2014, the property went up for sale, but despite a steep price reduction from the initial asking price of $400,000, no buyers expressed interest due to its reputation and dangerous condition. The building, which had a long history as a public house and alehouse dating back 170 years, even posed a threat to public safety when it exploded in 1875 during its time as a tavern. After its final closure and numerous safety violations, plans were eventually made to demolish the crumbling structure and redevelop the land. The owner was handed a suspended prison sentence, 200 hours of community service, and ultimately lost the property. Number 2. Tunnels. Daniel Beckwith, a Bitcoin multimillionaire, orchestrated a dangerous and bizarre project that led to the death of Askia Kafra, a 21-year-old aspiring entrepreneur. Kafra was hired by Beckwith to dig a network of underground tunnels beneath Beckwith's home in Lake Anna, Virginia, in exchange for financial support for Kafra's own business ambitions. Beckwith was deeply paranoid about the possibility of a nuclear attack from North Korea and envisioned the tunnels as a survival bunker. Kafra's job was far from ordinary. He would spend days underground, digging, eating, sleeping, and even watching television between shifts. Beckwith's eccentric behavior included blindfolding Kafra and driving him to the digging site to keep the location secret. The conditions were dangerous, and Kafra's safety was never a priority. Tragically, Kafra's life came to an end in 2017, when a fire broke out in Beckwith's basement. Kafra had just finished a work session and was cleaning himself with wet wipes when the blaze began, likely ignited by a daisy chain of extension cords that stretched over 200 feet, 61 meters, underground. Due to Beckwith's hoarding habits, the house was cluttered with towering piles of junk, creating narrow, maze-like passages that prevented Kafra from escaping. When police arrived at Beckwith's home, they found Kafra's burned, naked body in the basement, next to a hole leading to the extensive underground tunnel network. Beckwith, who had revealed to officers that someone else was trapped in the house, survived the fire. In 2019, Beckwith was convicted of manslaughter and second-degree murder and was sentenced to 9 years in prison. However, in 2021, the murder conviction was overturned on appeal, and in 2022, he was resentenced to 10 years with all but 5 years suspended. Since Beckwith had already served nearly 3 years in jail and was credited for time served, he was not required to spend additional time in prison. Number 1. Brooklyn Apartment Building. In Brooklyn, New York, Morris Gross, a 77-year-old landlord, became infamous for neglecting his properties, including buildings on Sterling Street and 21st Street. Gross racked up more than 1,900 housing code violations, but only a few were ever fixed. The 2 buildings he owned were notorious for their terrible living conditions, including leaky pipes, no heat, bold mice, and falling plaster. In 1988, Gross was convicted of contempt of court for his failure to address nearly 400 building code violations. His punishment was unusual but fitting. He was sentenced to 15 days of house arrest in one of his own dilapidated apartments. During this period, Gross was forced to endure the same harsh conditions his tenants suffered, unable to escape due to the electronic ankle bracelet that prevented him from returning to his comfortable residence in Brighton Beach. But Gross tried to cushion the blow. Before moving in, he ordered repairs to his temporary unit, including plastering, painting, installing a new kitchen floor, and even adding a new couch and radiator. Meanwhile, some of his tenants had gone without heat for months. In addition to his unusual house arrest, Gross was fined $32,000 for contempt of court and ordered to pay a total of $137,900 in civil penalties. However, if Gross stayed in the apartment for the full duration of his sentence, he could use the civil penalty funds to make much-needed repairs. If not, he would face even higher costs to bring his buildings up to code. Lawrence P. Cartelli, a lawyer for the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, commented that some landlords, like Gross, buy buildings with the intention of sucking them dry by neglecting maintenance. While Gross's actions were shocking, Cartelli noted that it was not the worst he'd seen, just average, a disturbing reminder of the widespread neglect in some urban housing. There you have it, 10 global death traps, each with a terrifying tale of danger and neglect. These places serve as a reminder that even the buildings and homes we rely on can sometimes turn into nightmares. Have you encountered similar locations in your vicinity, or are you aware of a structure that warrants inclusion in this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a strange and unsettling story from odd occasions. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and stay aware of the odd occurrences all around us.